my name is Sam, and I'm part of Team Tough Topics, and my presentation is going to be on oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. So the first thing that I want to point out is that we're looking at the partial pressure of oxygen in millimeters worth of mercury down here on the bottom. On the side, we're looking at the oxyhemoglobin, or the percent of saturation of oxygen that is on the red blood cell, specifically the heme portion. The first thing that I want to point out is that it's an S curve. And so when we look at, let's say, sea level, because sea level is 100 millimeters worth of mercury of partial pressure of oxygen, right here. So if we look at that, that would equivalent to about 98% of oxygen saturation. Let's say that we go to Denver or somewhere that has 80 millimeters worth of mercury of partial pressure of oxygen. When we look at that, we're right here, which would be 95%. So if we notice that between the difference of 80 and 100, there's this decreased margin of utility, and so we get 3% less O2 sat, which is really not significant. And now I'm going to move into the shift to the left and the right. The factors that influence it would be these four right here: pH, DPG or BPG, whichever you want to use, temperature, and CO2. So if we look and we say that you're sitting around, you're doing nothing, and all of a sudden you get up and you start moving, we would have an increase in the molecule DPG. This molecule causes a conformational change on your heme portion of your hemoglobin, which then allows it so that more oxygen can be released. The oxygen has become more available, and because the cell is moving and it's exercising, it has a greater affinity for oxygen. And so because it has that oxygen, it can go through and do metabolism. And if we recall, that metabolism happens inside the mitochondria. The mitochondria is what produces all of our temperature, our heat, and so we'd also have an increase in temperature. A metabolic byproduct of that would be your CO2. So your CO2 would also increase. By default, there's an inverse relationship with your CO2 and your pH. So your pH would decrease, or if you want to keep it with all the increase, you would say an increase in hydrogen ions. So to apply that, any condition that would cause an increase in any of these four factors would cause you to shift to the right. Things that could do that would be COPD, asthma, hyperthermia, any condition, whether it be respiratory or metabolic, that could cause acidosis. If we want to look to a shift to the left, we would say it would be just the opposite of these things. So we would say an increase in hydrogen of your pH, I should say, or a decrease in hydrogen ions, decrease in the molecule 2,3-DPG or BPG, decrease in temp CO2, and decreased affinity. The affinity meaning that the cells have less need for oxygen. And any condition that could go with these four factors would be hypothermia. That would be a good one. Or you could say any condition that would cause you to retain CO2, so hypoventilating, or any respiratory or metabolic alkalosis would also fit under here. And something to mention is, just because this one worked out nicely, that I had an increase in all of these and it went smoothly, you don't have to see all of them in order for it to be a shift to the right or left. That's all that I got to say. Hope it helped, and thank you for watching.